Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Avero Advisors live stream. I'm Megan Seaton. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth, and I'm super excited to be joined today by our founder and CEO, Mr. Abhijit Varekar, and one of our
Morning.
very esteemed project managers, Mr. David Buchanan. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning, Megan. How
Yeah.
are things?
So good. I am so excited for today's conversation. I think I'm always excited for the conversation on the live streams, but we just wrapped up a very successful GFOA, which is a national show that we attend every year. I think this was our fourth year attending, and I thought there was no better time than now to really talk about the trends that we're seeing because I'm seeing things change very quickly in terms
Yeah.
of AI, in terms of policy shifts. All sorts of things are going on in the public finance sector right now. And I just want to dive into that. But before we do, guys, if you're joining us today, please comment in the chat box. We want to hear your questions. We want you guys to engage with us. That's what makes these live streams worthwhile. So please let us know where you're joining from. And if you're new to the Avero Advisors page, we are an independent third-party consultant helping public sector agencies to modernize more through strategy and less through technology. So without further ado, let's dive in. So what for you two, just to kick it off, what was eye-opening that you saw at GFOA that really made you think, wow, this is something that we would have never seen 5 years ago?
Let me start. I
Okay.
don't think I saw any eye-opening. I mean, I know that's not the topic is trends and what's going on in the industry, but really, I was hoping to walk into the exhibitor hall where we had our booth and where we had lots of great conversations with the clients and prospects. Um, and I was hoping to see real upheaval in what was being offered to our clients. Now, all of the big players in the industry are talking about AI and how it's embedded into their systems and how it's going to make life easy for customers. But it's hard to see because I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but if it's baked into your product, like they say it is, then they have to really show you how it's AI baked into the product, other than just, hey, here's my chatbot that tells you what your budget line item is or whatever. Standalone AI products, I think we saw two, which were also very rudimentary. One was an overlay. It was like a reporting layer on top of any other ERP. And then the second one was like an RFP automation engine. But everybody is talking about it. Everybody is um, talking about modernization. There was a lot of interest in terms of ERP modernization, more so than the last 3 or 4 years. They even had GFOA had a session on ERP phobia, and we commented on that. So that tells you that there's a lot of interest. But we also heard about uh, clients and prospects saying, "Hey, is this a good time to do digital modernization? Because we want to see what happens with AI." And our response to that was, well, you'll be in the same spot next year if you wait to see what happens with AI. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I think AI was one of the main topics that I discussed, at least with some of our clients and some of the people that came by and talked to our booths. One of the things that's really surprised me and stood out is just thinking back to this time last year. You talk to AI, talk about AI with a client, and the client's a little bit adverse to AI. They're it's new on the scene. They don't know if they're in love with it just yet. And then all of a sudden, over the past 365 days, it seems like a lot of that shifted for a lot of people. They're really interested in these AIs, and the vendors are all coming out saying, hey, we have this AI. But as AV said, a lot of it's baked in the product. You don't necessarily see exactly what it is. It's not fully there yet. So there's a lot of good conversations around that. It's definitely a way of the future. It's just how do we navigate going into that future is the biggest question that I saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked about this a little bit from GFOA last week, but it's encouraging to know that the need of the independent third party consultant is still there, right? Yes, people do want to modernize, but people do still need our help and they need our guidance. And so that's why it's up to us to remain as a trusted advisor in the market and listen to what's going on. Let's talk a little bit about, while we're at conferences, we were able to go around the vendor hall and speak to our software provider friends and learn what's in the market. So I'm curious, what did you guys learn from our software providers?
People, it- obviously, like I said, there's a lot of interest in modernization, but there is also an interest in going to market sooner. Obviously, software providers, that it's in their best interest that the procurement cycle's shorter, quicker, more efficient. And what's happened traditionally is, and we're accused of that as consultants, right? That you guys are slowing things down. Why do you need to have so many requirements? Why do you need to have business process analysis for 8 to 12 months? And our response has always been, well, it's in the best interest of the client to understand what they're getting into. So, how do you match those two really true statements that you need to do this quicker? Like, how do you digitally transform and do a once in a lifetime, once in a career project? Um, but how do you do it while not taking 3 years to do it, no matter what the size of the organization? So I think from our standpoint, AI is going to enable um, quicker go-to-market strategies, quicker go-to RFP strategies for our clients, and therefore beneficial to the vendor community where they can, reduce their sales cycles, and then we're not in the way, perceivably, of them getting to the contract sooner. Trust me, we want to get faster contracts too. We want to get to the implementation stage and provide IV&V services to our clients, but we need to do it right. So that's something that was a common thread. And of course, as independent third-party advisors, when we run into our vendor friends, it's always about, hey, tell me more about the deal we lost to who so and so that you guys were involved in. And we had a lot of those conversations too. But the I think the takeaway for me is that um, faster to market is better for everybody. Now there's a lot of nuance there. You can't just put an RFP out overnight because GPT can produce one for you. What goes in that RFP and how you prompt it and what tools are you using, because you cannot use open to the world GPT products for creating RFP. So you have to be careful about privacy. You have to be careful about security of data, and not be really cognizant of what you're putting into those publicly available LLMs that are now going to train on your data, which the software providers are going to build on to sell it back to you. So it's a nuanced conversation about using AI to cut down the cost and the time to go to RFP. There's a way to do it, and that's where consultants come in, right? Because we have a product stack that we're about to deploy to help our clients understand their needs, their requirements, their business processes, and get a lot of context around it. Look at
Mhm.
who's doing what in the industry, what are true best practices, not what consultants think best practices are, and layer on top of that human-centric consulting, meaning you're not just relying on AI, because the consulting piece still exists, right? We're not note takers, we're not researchers, we're consultants. We've done this before, and there's a lot of nuance that goes into putting an RFP out. And I think it's an exciting time for us to be getting into this space. Sorry, I rambled
I
on.
don't disagree. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. But I don't disagree with you, Avi. My biggest concern, I think, is with the procurement department, right? When you're talking
Hmm.
about these language models and getting your procurement teams on board, they're the ones who keep us out of jail, right? And so how do you get them on board with something like an AI model that actually crafts the RFP for you? Like, that's scary, I think, a little bit. Do you have thoughts on that?
I have many thoughts on that, right? It's
Yeah.
um, look, of all of the government departments and agencies we work with and deal with, procurement departments are the most overworked, understaffed, under-resourced from a technology, staffing, business operations process standpoint. So if there was ever a use case for showcasing how AI enabled human-centric consulting can help those folks, now is the time. So I know so many forward-thinking purchasing agents that are like, man, I just wish I had a thing that would do the thing for me. But on the other hand, they're also like, I'm so busy with my contract reviews that I cannot test the tool you sent me last week that would reduce my workload. So it's a chicken and egg situation, but I'm very hopeful because we both know some very progressive, forward-thinking folks that are in that area. But yeah, you have to do it within the realm of what's allowed legally, what their codes are, what the purchasing laws are. And I think everyone talking about it and everyone trying to make that function better for the agency and for vendors, including us, is a great thing for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, I'm sorry I cut you off. What was your thought?
No, you're absolutely fine. And I agree with everything that's being said as far as the use of AI. The biggest thing is it's not necessarily a plug and play option. It's the same thing when, the internet came on the scene. You can do research faster. This allows you to do your job faster and more efficiently. But there is also that human element of going through and reading what is AI generating, making sure that everything is in agreement with not only your procurement rules, but also what the vision is of your department, of your city. Making sure that what's coming out of that AI is truly correct is going to be really, really important because, yes, AI can do a fantastic job of crafting something that looks beautiful and most of it's correct. 90% it's going to be correct. That 10%, what may be causing issues, and making sure that you have that human review, but it does make your job a lot faster. Just figuring out how to layer that into your day-to-day process is going to be one of the biggest, I guess, changes. I don't want to call it a challenge, but changes that people are going to have to deal with. What can AI take off my plate? What do I need to review to make sure this is correct?
Right. I don't
Hey, we
disagree
have
with that.
questions
We
in the
do,
chat
we
box.
do.
I'm so sorry.
I want to get my thought out really quick, based on what Dave just said, because Brian Turbot is in the chat box, and I want to make sure I get all of his questions from the town of Nantucket. Hey, Mr. Turbot. No, really quick. I don't disagree with you, Dave. It's all about that executive alignment. We've talked and talked and talked about this visioning. What do you see for your organization in the next 3 to 5 years, right? But as an attendee, you attend these conferences and these trade shows, and you go into the vendor hall, and there's AI over here, and there's ERP over here, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have all these things on my plate and things that I want to do within my organization. Where do I start, and how do I approach this vendor hall, right? There's this new AI going on. There's, Oracle over here, Workday over here. What do I do? What are your all's thoughts?
No, you'd absolutely hit the nail on the head. I would say that the vendor hall can be a little bit of an information overload. You go to one booth, you see something new and fancy, then you go to another booth and it's something completely different. Now you're thinking about it from this aspect. I would definitely say due diligence is not something that should be taken lightly, especially going to those vendor halls, because you're going to go to Oracle, you're going to go to an SAP or whatever vendor is going to be out there, and they're going to have a conversation, show you their newest product. Making sure that fits for you is going to be very, very important, because it can look extraordinarily impressive on the screen, what they have there for the vendor hall for a generic demonstration or showing their platform. Making sure that you're going through and make sure it's the correct fit for you. I would say that's one of my biggest things. What are your thoughts on it, Adrian?
I think it goes back to having a comprehensive strategy for technology, right? Again, it's not different from any other new product, but it's different in the sense that it's going to upend your operations like nothing else if done right. And by upend, I mean improve and make more efficient, so you can do more with less, do things quicker. And how do you fit that within a government organization? Like, where do you begin, right? There are some easy entry points, like customer service, like chatbots on your website. But then what, right? Those are the base level applications of this great technology that again can be revolutionary, right? You're heading towards autonomous governments if you really embrace this. And I nerd out on blockchain and all of this. What's government going to do when all of this comes together? It's just going to work for us, right? But it's not going to get there for a long time, and maybe never, because we need people with hearts and emotions running organizations like that. So having an IT strategy, a technology strategy. I'm not even going to call it IT because a lot of times it gets confusing. What's IT? What's digital? What is what is our enterprise software stack? So having an enterprise-wide technology digital transformation strategy, call it what you may, is extremely important. So you know where to insert these technologies, where to begin. Um, and that's how you go from there, because you have to be very vigilant about changes. Every day a new LLM comes out, every day it's getting improved, every day you sign into a new LLM, there's new features, and it's again, it's the Wild West, and they're trying to beat each other to become the dominant force in this world. So if you are a developer building on top of a particular LLM stack and you're tied in, you may be at a disadvantage when Google next month, for example, beats everybody else and comes up with something greater. So everyone is on their toes, should be, and that includes our clients.
Thank you.
I think this is the question from the sheriff. I'm sorry, from
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead.
Brian from Nantucket. Brian is the CFO at the town of Nantucket. Do you see AI as having the ability to lessen the burden on those in municipal government finance department with compliance? As an example, the upcoming Financial Data Transparency Act. Yeah, and there was a session at GFOA about the FDTA, and we posted some things. Essentially, what that is how do you digitize your data and your reports so that it is machine readable. There's a deadline, 2027, that you need to get this done by, and that is a great opportunity for you to start modernizing your operations. And by machine readable, yes, AI can read scanned in documents, but you have to make sure that that is truly the case and that your documents are indeed machine readable so that they can be ingested by other reporting platforms and you can make it available to the public. That's the whole gist of it. It's a Transparency Act, and you cannot have transparency if government has paper records, that everything is on scanned documents that machines can't read. So it's a way to modernize government. So the question is AI going to have the ability? Yeah, absolutely, because at the end of the day, you're going to put it into some machine that will read your documents. And you may have products that already do this, right? Like OpenGov or some other data transparency portals that are already capable of reading digital documents and presenting them to the public. Now you're going to take that a level further by giving whatever AI reporting platform you use access to your other systems so they can also be included in the reporting. Right now, I think it's just budgeting systems, but then you will need to be transparent and offer data up for all of your different solutions. I hope that answered your question, Brian. The quick answer is yes, it will. Got anything to add, guys?
Kind of stole a little bit of my points. I mean, you definitely called that a good
No, I
idea.
didn't.
Okay. Well, don't call me out like that. You call that a good point as far as, this is the opportunity to modernize. This is where it's going to be really, really important because you're going to be having these acts coming up and making sure that you can hit those deadlines. This is a great way to push you into that modernization path, just making sure that we go about it carefully, plan strategically. You can set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think that this is a time for any of our public sector organizations to be sitting on the sidelines. And what I mean by that is, now's the time to be doing your research and understanding what's out there and what AI can do for you. What are the pros? What are the cons? And if you don't know where to begin, please contact us. Just a small commercial. We will help you with those things, but you can't just sit on the sidelines and wait for something to come to you. So that's my thought. I think Elsie has a good question, and we've talked a little bit about the human element when it comes to AI. So she says, as AI capabilities become more advanced, do you see more of the human review becoming obsolete, or do you think it will always be a part of the process?
I think at least in the immediate future, and by immediate future, I would say probably within the next 5 years, that this will still be a part of the process. And the reason for that is the documents are going to be coming out. from your organization, they're still going to have your organization on them. You're still going to be responsible for those documents. So if something comes out that's incorrect or does not align with organization strategies, we can't really exactly say, well, that's the AI's fault. We'll reprimand the AI. There's still going to be human responsibilities with this. So as far as looking at from that aspect, I think there will always be human review, because you have to make sure the content that's coming out aligns with everything. Like I said earlier, we can't just blame the AI and say, oh, well, yeah, we got that contract wrong, but that's the AI's fault. There's still going to be human responsibility with that.
Yeah, human in the loop is key. I mean, at some point, maybe you won't need it because it'll be so advanced, but not in the near future, I don't think. Even if it has the capabilities, we need to look out for ourselves. Like I'm not going to be alarmist, but it's us against a robot at some point. So how do you control that? And the alarmists are worried about that, right? If you don't control it, it's going to take over the world. But human in the loop, human centric services are key. Like, look, when we go to a conference like GFOA, people want to make connections. People want to make relationships. People want to build lifelong friendships. And that's who people do business with. And AI or not, like you could put a robot at our booth and have half the cost of what we just spent at this trade show, but it won't have the same impact. So why are people in 2025 still going to conferences? There were, I don't know, 5,000 people there. Why? Could they not have gotten the same information from GPT? And I don't think that's going to end. It probably is going to get even bigger in-person stuff, because everything else is digital and humans crave the human touch. So how does that impact our work? I think we have the grave and the great responsibility to make sure that no matter what AI-enabled tools we're putting out there or using for our clients or selling to our clients, that you always layer on top with the human element, with the experience and the emotions that we have about wanting to serve our communities through our clients. That is critical, and it's not there yet. So yeah, life is going to become easier through AI, but you need to make sure that you're always having humans in the loop, and that's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of automated products that take you from A to Z without a human being involved, and that may be applicable to some organizations, some industries, not in ours. We're here to serve the public eventually, and so you can't just do that with robots.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, AV. We saw a product while we were in the vendor hall that will essentially, and I've said it already, craft an RFP for you, right? There are talks of, not only crafting the RFP, but from our side, responding to RFPs with AI. And that worries me just because is there still going to be a human in the loop? And for our clients in particular, how are they going to differentiate and know who they want to do business with? Because at some point, all the responses become very robotic and the same, right? So how do you do that from a selection standpoint? That's something that I've been, turning my wheels on since I've heard these conversations about automating the RFP process. What are we going to have to do differently from a public sector standpoint to make sure that we're still, having a fair and competitive bidding process?
I think it's beyond just what we have to do, right? We have to
Yep.
adapt,
Right.
and we truly customize our proposals. We
Right.
put a lot of work into research, into understanding the client, understanding why they're doing this now, what they've done before and succeeded and failed at. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. Yeah. Now we're going to use AI to do that kind of research, but the human has to tell it what to look for.
Right.
And so can you take that and put it into a proposal and make it good? Yes. From our standpoint, it's going to make proposal writing quicker. It already has. The sort of the other angle of this is the purchasing departments. They have to modernize the way they're going to ingest this information. And it doesn't matter how quickly we do proposals. If they are still understaffed, they're still under resourced, if it still takes 12 months to get a software RFP out, then it's no use. So everyone needs to modernize. And again, these are just, different legs of the same stool. Private industry is coming up with great products that we can use. Governments are using some products, but they need to go all the way into adopting these
That's right.
technologies and not just pieces of it.
Right.
Because again, like why do you need a consultant to draft a scope of work for you anymore? You can just go into GPT and do it. But the magic is in the context, and the contextual use of AI is still a work in progress. You've got things like MCP that you can implement and RAG databases, but again, now you're getting a little too technical, and it doesn't happen overnight. So everyone needs to be on the same ride here, not just consultants and software providers. And that's where we
Dave,
come in, right? Again, we can
yeah.
help with the crafting of that strategy. Like how do you dip your toes into this new lake?
Yep.
Absolutely. I think that and I really do, I like the human element aspect of that. And it's the same reason that we talk to our clients and we say, we would love to come out on site as much as you want to have us out there, because we actually want to have a face-to-face interaction. Even just talking to our viewers, Megan and AV, through this video camera, it doesn't feel as authentic as it could, as actually having that human interaction, human conversation. Now, granted, the use of AI will make things more efficient. It will save time. It will save money. But still, at the same standpoint, you want to have that trusted advisor that has the experience, that have seen the pitfalls in previous projects before and know those stories. So that way you can watch out for them and also have that personable relationship. That's not something that you can have with AI. AI is not going to understand every single pain point that you have and all the stress that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I think that human touch element's a very, very important part, and that's why we go out to those conferences. We could have a little chat bot you can ask Avero questions, just go type up on the board. It's going to feel very cold, not very connected, but actually coming and seeing us face to face and having a conversation with us in person, I think is very impactful.
Look,
Absolutely.
I've always maintained that our clients don't buy deliverables. They don't buy requirements, definitions. They don't buy process maps. They don't buy RFPs from us. They buy connections and relationships and intellect, right? When a client signs a contract with Avero, they're doing it as an extension of their staff. They want extra brain power. They want extra firepower in this very critical thing that they're chasing. So now with AI, and I think we should move on from this after this point, is the work's gonna get done. If you're a smart consulting team, the deliverables will get done with the human in the loop, but the onus and the real magic will happen with people to people, trying to figure out how to solve really critical problems. So it may not cost the clients less, but you'll spend more time on the more qualitative stuff and more budget on the qualitative stuff. A client of ours at GFOA was like, I really need a partner in a consulting firm that can help me figure out where this is going. Where do we go next? Yeah, this project you guys are doing is great, but where is the next thing? I didn't bring you guys in just to sit in meetings and take notes and check off boxes as a project management team. That piece is going to get is elevated already, and we need to be there as consultants with our clients, not just pushing deliverables, which again, robots can do.
That's right. Jacob asked along those same lines, how do you personally or as an organization stay on the forefront of these emerging technologies? How do you make the decision to implement the new tech for clients and maybe even for ourselves internally?
I'll go. By just being a nerd about it, right? It's like
Yeah.
I am an early adopter on everything. You show me a new tool, I will jump into it to test it out. You need to have a deep interest in um, technology and how it can make things better for ourselves, for our clients, or just a new cool toy. Like I just love playing with cool new stuff. So that's how I stay on top of things, and I don't think I am on top of things, right? It's just when you first hear about ChatGPT from the newspaper, you're way behind. So going to conferences, going to AI conferences or newer conferences than just the ones that we've been going to, opening your minds up to what else is out there, reading new things, clearing your feed of the same old things, and really getting into. If you really want to get into it, it's not too late, right? You can sit back and think that, oh man, I missed this AI boat. It's nowhere close to leaving the port. Um, and yeah, the only way you can do it is by yourself. There's a lot of resources out there, including our channels. Go check them out. Go follow me, and I'll tell you what I'm playing with these days. But there's no course. Like you sign up for a course on AI, it's too late. That course was made 6 months ago, a year ago, and it's obsolete. So
Mhm.
the only way to do it by yourself is by yourself.
Jacob, I think what motivates me is our clients, right? I don't want them getting left behind, and I want them to modernize, right? And when they do modernize, there's all these lives that they touch, and so I think that's my motivation to want to stay on the forefront of what's happening. Our founder and CEO does a really good job in pouring into me as well, and so he motivates me to be more lazy, as he tells me to. I'm just kidding. He motivates me to want to know more. So that's my answer. Dave, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on the passion side. I would definitely say it's constant research. It's not necessarily taking that, course that like AV says 6 months out of date. It's just constantly looking into what are vendors now coming up with, what are they talking about on their roadmaps for their systems. Looking at, newsletters it's constant sources of research to make sure that we are informed. So that way, if a client comes to us, say, hey, what have you seen out of this vendor? Well, they've got this coming up. And having that information, it's important to make sure that we're aware so that way we can advise our clients to the best of our ability.
Yeah. There are two more topics I want to dive into before we wrap up. One being federal funding, right? ARPA funds are drying up at the end of 2026, right? And so I want to get your all's thoughts on what we're seeing, right? And what advice do you have to give to our CFOs and our finance professionals in terms of these ARPA funds going away?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
definitely sorry, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Davey.
Sorry. Nope. You.
It's a constant changing environment right now is what we're dealing with. I've seen things in the news where maybe some funding was removed due to something passing in law. And the biggest thing is going to be making sure that you're prepared for what projects do you have coming down the road. Where are you looking at that funding for, and making sure that you're not only obviously responsibly allocating that. That's something that finance officers are very they do their due diligence on, but looking and preparing for this ever changing environment that we're in currently. Even talking to clients who are looking to acquire new hardware, there's possible ramifications from tariffs that might be coming down the road. So these hardware vendors are having to account for those, and it's inflating those prices. So doing the best that you can with that research to make sure that you can prepare for what is the worst case scenario for funding this project. What's our absolute emergency backup plan? I think it is definitely a good strategy.
Well, I would say, obviously you need to spend it or it goes away. It's a good time for you to do things like come up with a strategy for what do you need. So technology strategy, if ERP is a big pain point, go for it, right? Reach out and we can help you identify what those steps are, and also give you estimates on total cost of ownership, like how much of the funding you have left is going to be enough for this project. And there are other ways of coming up with the funds, and it comes down to how creative the finance team is, the leadership is. And I don't think the 26 deadline is, it's not a surprise. It's always been there. But if you've been sitting on the funds, it's time to do something.
We have some questions in the chat. Are there any tools you'd like to see more of in future GFOA conferences?
So
Yeah, really anything that makes our lives or the clients' lives better is exciting for us, right? It's really good to see new players emerge, no matter what tools they're presenting, because it again, competition is good for the market, and I think more standalone AI tools that are plug and play will be interesting to see. The problem with standalone tools is, where do you begin, right? We saw a lot of payment processors
Yes.
in the vendor hall, lots of payment processing, uh, but major vendors have their own payment processing systems or preferred partners. So how do you get a toehold into a large organization that already has a great payment processing system? So specific tools will reveal themselves. I don't have any specific ideas. What about you, David?
I think just a constant look at not only ourselves but also vendors. How are they approaching the constant issues that people are having? So, and for folks that watched our live stream last week, we had our ERP confessional wall up at GFOA, and a lot of those confessions were things that we've heard, time and time again. Every single organization is different, every single project is different, but a lot of times some of the problems can intersect each other. So those are common issues, and just seeing, how are we, not only as consultants but as vendors, going to help solve those issues. I can't say that there's going to be a specific point in software I could sit here and say, AI. We've talked about that a lot for this live stream, but I want to see, how are we doing more pointed approach at fixing those common pain points for people.
Yeah. I'm going to take a different approach to answer Mason's question, because, you guys, I lead business development. So my job is to make as many connections as possible. GFOA does a very good job with their attendee app, right? But what I'd like to see is more of like a forum where people could come on and talk about what they're dealing with in that moment, right? Something like a feed or a LinkedIn feed. We attended one conference, AV, I don't know, years ago, where this was great. It was embedded in the app. We could chat. We could say, hey, we just heard this, or hey, so and so is dealing with this, or I just attended this session, or we're all going to this spot. Let's all meet up. I think is just a good way to connect with people outside of the vendor hall and add that more humanized element to the overall show. So I know you guys were talking about product, but I told you I wanted to take a little different approach. I wish there was something embedded in the app where we could do that. I want to talk really quick. Oh, go ahead. We'll answer Thomas's question. As AI technology continues to further develop, do you think there will be a higher reliance on soft skills as opposed to hard skills?
100%. I mean, soft skills have always been important, especially in consulting. Again, to my point earlier, what are people buying? They're buying smart people's time and experience and expertise in a certain thing to get to a certain outcome. And the tools have always been around, right? I think before consultants used Microsoft Word, they used typewriters. And before that, they probably had handwritten reports. And now we have AI enabled stuff. So it's up to you to determine what flavor of consultant you're going to be. And yes, human element, soft skills, communication, planning, risk management, all of those things are critically important as AI and technology are become more developed, more advanced. It's not going to replace those very critical skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would look at it from the aspect of, so AI is going to assist a lot with hard skills, building out those deliverables. But like you just said, going from the typewriter to Microsoft Word, there is also a point of how efficiently do you use that tool. There's proficiency in Microsoft Word. You'll see that on resumes and on job postings. It's having that proficiency in that AI and that new technology is going to be really, really important to make sure that you're not only creating high quality products for your clients, but also B, are you doing it in an efficient manner? So I think that there's some of the soft skills that are going to be really important. And just like we talked about earlier with client relationships and just having that communication, those soft skills are going to be, they're going to really take the forefront over those hard skills eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't ever foresee our clients just wanting to engage with just a robot, right? Or just a chat bot or just a language model, right? They're always going to need us for that advice. And to give advice, we have to make sure that we hone in on those soft skills. So I agree with all that is said. Last question for today. And if we, go ahead, AB. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just want to underscore the points being made here. Yes, people will not want to just engage with a robot, right? I mean, we do this. The best of
Yeah.
chatbots on the most advanced websites. If you're talking to an AI agent, you're getting the answers, but really you want somebody that understands your pain.
That's right.
And soft skills have always been important. Now, if you have the hard skills to understand how to put these Lego bricks together, how LLMs work together, how RAG works, how databases in general work, how to keep the data clean, how to make it useful for whatever AI product you're using, that hard skill combined with these soft skills is going to be dynamite,
Yeah.
right? It used to be coding. Everyone pushed coding over the last 30 years, and rightfully so. But junior coders don't have jobs anymore because you can go to Replit or Cursor or Claude and it writes code for you. My 6.5-year-old daughter made a game by just typing in natural language instructions, which is great. I tried to get her to do it right by writing down requirements first and mapping out the process. That was a losing battle. But my point is, if you can combine your soft skills with the hard skills, the technical skills, it's going to be dynamite. So people that have graduated from um, computer science or any kind of degree that is more technical, you might have a tough time finding the traditional role as a junior coder or developer. But you just need to get that experience of business and using those soft skills. That's what makes you marketable with those um, technical skills.
Yeah. No, great point. Great point. You'll be dynamite. I love that. Real quick before we wrap up, and if we did not get to your questions or comments in the chat, we will make sure to go back and answer those for you all. Where do you all see the CFO role shifting to? I know, in the past they've been number crunchers, right? The ones that sign the checks, the ones that most of the time approve the funding, right? Are they becoming more strategic, more of a visionary? What are your thoughts?
I think so. I think that role has shifted tremendously, and that's a pretty major job. In a larger county, CFOs tend to be deputy mayors, deputy chief executives, because they control the good ones control not just the money but the politics and the what
That's
goes
right.
on the agenda. How do you get things passed? So very, very powerful position in any organization, and it's changing from the standpoint that more and more decisions on enterprise systems, ERPs, financial ERPs, are being made in the CFO's office. And again, the good ones understand the role of the CFO versus the CIO, when to bring consultants in, how to pay for things so that nobody's surprised. Because again, they're the ones taking some large ticket items to their boards, commissions, and these are things that live within the walls. You can't see. It's not like a big school building that you're building for $45 million. You're going to spend it on software and on consultants. So it's changing from the standpoint that you have to be savvy about how do you sell these to the legislative bodies. How do you staff yourself up so that you're not just reliant on the software vendors to provide that service for you. And being creative with funding, like you said, ARPA's running out. but we've known that. And the good ones have gotten ahead of that. They found other means of, finding funds to do critical major projects. So yeah, very critical role. And I think it's going to become more and more visible and powerful as tech gets more advanced, if they adopt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely looking much more ahead down the road. That's strategic planning for what's coming up, anticipating what's going to be occurring, and a lot of CFOs do a really good job at that. But with the emergence of technology and the shifting of that role, some of those day-to-day stuff might be able to be handled by that new technology, and that allows you the time to focus on what's the vision for your organization that you're in currently, and how are you going to achieve that. Not only financially, but also getting all the pieces together, starting those conversations, whether it be with the CIO, with consultants, looking ahead down the road and making sure that you're properly planning for the future.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. We had a very successful week last week at GFOA. We learned so much, and it was our honor to share it with our followers today. If you're not following us on all social media platforms, go out, follow us, give us a like, comment. Let us know what you want to hear next. We always love hearing from our followers. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have a great end to your week. Bye.
Thank you.